Now.
Oh, yes. Now I can hear.
Say something.
Oh, yes. Now I
There
can
we
hear.
go.
Say something.
Oh, yes. Now I
There
can
we
hear.
go.
Hello,
Oh,
hello,
yes.
hello.
Now I
There
can
we
hear.
go.
Hello, hello,
Whoa.
hello.
Echo, echo.
Nina.
Hello,
We're
hello,
getting a
hello.
lot of echo.
Oh, I said hello
We're
3
getting
times.
a lot. Well, yeah.
Did it come out more than that?
Yeah.
Oh.
Let me see this.
It was a continual hello, hello,
Oh.
hello, 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 hello.
I didn't help things then.
Okay, try it now.
Okay, is this any better?
Not hearing an echo so far.
Yeah, it looks like we're good.
Is it better for you?
Yep.
Nina, you want to say something?
Yeah, sound any better?
Yep, much better.
Okay.
Cool. Now I only get one echo hearing you guys and then on the stream.
Okay, perfect. Let's close that then. And so.
I don't care how much you purr, cat. I'm not giving you any of my food.
Okay, so. Can't figure out which screen to look at. Okay. No, not that one. All right, so. Welcome to DnDeBrief. I am your DM Samuel, and I am here once again with my excellent players. Let's start with Nina. Say hello, Nina.
Hi everyone. My name is Nina, and I am playing Emmeryn Renestra, who is a human Tempest cleric.
And Matt.
Hello, I'm Matt. I'm playing Konos Lendeth, the Sea Elf Warlock.
And Karu.
Hi, I'm Karu, and I am playing Marcel Petit Diableron, who is a gender-fluid Lutrinian sorcerer.
And David.
Hi, I'm playing Axley Tillingquest, Halfling Bard.
Excellent. And this is, if you look where it names the episode on the stream, it says it's episode 39 to 42, because I switched to making each 3-hour game into 3 different 1-hour or so episodes. So it's episode 39, but it's also really stream number 25 or something like that. So we've been doing this for what, a year and a half now, about twice a month, but then with time off because of different pandemic things and different holiday things and blah blah blah. So we are we're at just about the I don't know, 75 or 80 hours worth of content mark, which is a lot. So thank you for sticking with me through all of that. So because we switched to the 1-hour format, or basic 1-hour format for the podcast, we are going to record a debrief first. And the reason we're going to record a debrief first is so that we can throw that debrief on the end of whichever hour-long episode that we want to. First, before we move to an actual specific topic, does anybody have anything they need to suggest that is not on our list?
No?
I got one for maybe like a future one, because this is in part a debrief topic and in part a bit of a promotion for a really what looks like a really cool Kickstarter that's coming out.
Okay.
Hopefully, it's already made. It's called Wander Home. That's supposed to be coming out next year. And the topic is basically DM led games versus more collective, collaborative. All the players sort of equally get to tell the story type of games, which is kind of what the format of that's going to be. That's something I want to look into more, maybe for a future topic.
So is it a GM-less game, an official, like, so there's a game called Fiasco that a lot of people have heard of and a lot of people haven't. But the game, basically, it's called GM-less because everyone at some point takes control of the narrative, and there's still dice and there's still game mechanics, although they're very light. And there's different relationships between the characters. But basically, the first little bit of the game, you're setting up the relationships between all of the people at the table, and you're you choose a sort of playbook to begin with that sort of sets the framework for the type of story that you want to tell. Because it's basically like making a movie. You could choose a horror one, you could choose a comedy, you could choose a black comedy, you could choose, or I guess I should say dark comedy, right? You could choose a heist, you could choose a drama. So there's all these different kinds of playbooks that have to do with the type, the themes, and the style of the game that you would be playing. But during the game, nobody takes the role of GM. Everybody is a character in the quote movie or in the game that's being played. And so basically what that means is that there is no GM. So that's called a GM-less game. And so you kind of take turns going. Is that how Wander Home is, or is it
pretty much? Yeah, the system they specifically use is called no dice, no masters. I think is the actual like term, or I think that's like from a different style of game that is what they call. But yeah, basically that's what they kind of how they set up. Like I heard it was like the creator basically did an interview, like a podcast interview about a week or so ago, and they basically played through about an hour worth of gameplay. Maybe got about halfway through, but it was essentially the two of them going through, and they have like each, like you said, each of them have like individual playbooks kind of for the characters they do that they have that basically say describe here are the moves you can make. It's not like it's nowhere near like a typical D&D player type of setup. It's very simple and it's very cute. I mean, if you don't mind, can I post a link for their Kickstarter in your chat?
Yeah, I don't think it's restricted.
Okay.
Yeah,
all right. So for viewers, there's the link. We want to know more and maybe support this because it looks like it's going to be a lot of fun. Yeah, but basically it's like they were basically essentially taking turns. Here's like kind of the scenario, and this it was more of it's a travel narrative game. So it's kind of a red wall style world, and kind of anthropomorphic characters, and the gist is you are traveling from essentially from point A to point X, and with all sort of stuff in between, and it's like seasonal timeline going on. And essentially this, going back and forth, taking turns, here's kind of what we see, here's kind of what we're describing. And then here's maybe individual actions they want to, they take to either get tokens or have very, very small influences kind of occur in the world of the game. It's definitely different than like, a D&D adventuring party. They come into town and they're, this party is going to solve all the problems that this town has had and may ever have. It's more of, here is a group of individuals that they're on a journey and they're not really the best equipped to solve world-sized problems or even town-sized problems. It's more like, the actions you take may make people's lives a little better for a short period of time. But then you're kind of back on the road again.
How does an adventure structure like that work? Is it kind of like a choose your own adventure type of a booklet, or is it like a randomly generated tables to have certain events happen? How does the structure guide you?
That's a good question. I mean, like I said, from what I've seen, from what I've seen and heard so far, then there's no pre-published adventures. It's literally just two people or a few people sitting around a table, kind of like taking turns telling stories. Pretty much, like there's no module, like there's no somebody sitting behind a DM screen and say, okay, well here's the events that are going to happen, here's the sequence that's going to happen. You might agree like beforehand, here's kind of where we're going to, or here's what time of the year it is. But beyond that, it's just pretty much very open-ended narrative storytelling.
So, for example, in Fiasco, just to give you kind of an idea of how something like this can work, I'm not saying that Wander Home is going to work exactly like this, but here's kind of how it works in Fiasco. You sit at a table, right, or maybe you're on screen or whatever, and there's a 3x5 card between each group of 2 people, right? So if I'm sitting next to, so on my screen, I'm sitting next to Matt, Matt's next to David, David's next to Nina, Nina's next to Karu, Karu's next to me. So I'm going to have a card between Karu and myself and a card between Matt and myself. And that card is going to say our relationship, right? And it's going to say, something about that relationship, right? So if we determine, and you usually, like in Fiasco, you use a d6. So there's a table that says, oh, what's your relationship? You roll a d6 and it says, you're in the same family. And then you might roll another d6 on a different table and find out you're either married or your siblings, or one of you is the parent of the other one, right? Something like that. And then so you write that on the card. And then each individual person also will roll a die for like their motivation. So you read off this table, my motivation is this, or maybe a personality, or whatever it is. It kind of depends on the storyline that you chose, right? And there's a ton of playbooks out there that provide different lists for different storylines. If you're playing a heist movie, right, all of us would probably have a relationship that has to do with whatever our expertise is, right, and how we know each other. And if we were playing, some kind of a horror movie, we might all be students in the same university or something, and so it would, you know what I mean. So the type of relationship that you have with the different people sitting around, the different characters that the people sitting around the table are playing, is determined based on the actual theme of the story that you're playing. And so I could see Wander Home having a similar thing, where maybe there's certain choices that you have in terms of what kind of animal you want to be, and what kind of relationship you have with the other players, and maybe what your skills are. But that's based on what the theme of the story that you chose, or if you're traveling from a known place to an unknown place, or if you're making your way home from a unknown place to a known place, right? Those two types of stories would be quite different. And so you might have a different way to set up those relationships. And so, but that's kind of how it works. And then, in Fiasco, there's sort of, you sort of have a prompt to begin the story, and then everybody kind of goes around and you say exactly what happened, and then you figure out how to resolve each individual scene. And then right after everybody has had a scene, then there's what they call the tilt, which throws a wrench into the works and provides a complication for that story, the way it's set up now. And then everybody again gets to go around and sort of figure out what's happening, and everybody gets a chance in the spotlight, so to speak. And it's not that everybody sits around quiet when one person is being the quote narrator. It's that everybody gets to provide information about, well, I would react like this, or I would do that, or and so that's kind of how it works. And then in Fiasco, at least, what happens is you use 6-sided dice. You use black ones and white ones, and at the end of your scene, at the scene where you're the main character in the scene, you either give a black die or a white die. I'm saying it kind of wrong, but basically the gist of it is the character that does the best in that scene gets a white die, and the character who kind of comes out as the loser in that scene, or in a worse circumstance, gets a black die. And at the end of the game, after the tilt and after there's a bunch of narrative, a bunch of scenes that happen, it's kind of like the person who has the most black dice has like the tragic ending, so to speak, and the person with the most white dice is going to have the best kind of ending for that character, right? So that's kind of how that's a little bit of a framework for how that sort of thing can play out. It's very, very narrative and storytelling driven, and less about what kind of fighting skill do I have, and what is my character is the healer in the party, and so I'm good at these few things and I'm going to level up. There's none of that sort of framework. The framework is very much about telling a story sitting around a table, but the story has constraints.
Yeah, this appears to be very similar. Like some of the things you were talking about, yeah, like each of the player classes, for lack of a better term. It's like, you pick a type of animal, and some of them are unique to different classes or different roles. Some of the descriptions, like choose two things you are and two things you wish you were better at being. So like upbeat, honest, handsome, charismatic, focused, etc. Ask one person to the left and one person to the right questions like, why do I call you my best friend? Or why did I come with you when we left home? Or what do you find most interesting about my vocation or career path, and things like that.
In general, these things are basically just called narrative games because there are no dice rolls, and it's very much about, storytelling, kind of like the kind of thing you did before. Just sit around the fire or sit around the table and tell a collaborative story instead of having the dice dictate anything. Because I think this one doesn't even, Wonder Home doesn't even have any dice.
Oh, really?
And many narrative games are like that, where it's just everyone decides what happens as a collective, and then there's some kind of system in the game that will tell you how to move on from scene to scene. And like Sam said about throwing a wrench into it, some of them use cards, so they have like a card system, and you draw a card, and the card tells you what happens in the next scene, or what kind of complication happens, or where you're going, and stuff like that. I've seen the most narrative games in the itch community because it's more of like indie based. There's a lot of them. I know that Wonder Home is apparently started as using the system from Dream Askew and Dream Apart, which is also a narrative game.
There's a great game called Penny for My Thoughts, and it has this, what sounds like a horrible premise. The premise is everybody that's sitting around the table playing the game, and it's usually 4 or 5 people. You're in a mental institution, for lack of a better term, because you have amnesia. You do not know really who you are or what brought you to this point in your life, and you're part of this group, this support group, basically in the mental institution, right? Where you're all trying this group therapy, where you end up figuring out what your past is, and what happened in your past, and how it came to be that you have amnesia. And you sort of, everybody has pennies, right? And at the beginning of the game, you figure out like there's a trigger for everybody that makes them remember something, and there's like a specific significant item that they have, and you kind of people write down random things on little pieces of paper, and then you sort of randomly draw out one, and that gives you your significant thing that you have that's a significant part of the story, and then you have your, like, the thing that really is meaningful to you, right? That's the trigger. And then you go around, and whoever you pass the penny to next has to continue like the story, integrating themselves into what's going on. It's a really, really interesting game, and you don't have to do any prep, because you just basically start by reading, okay, here we all are sitting for our 5th group session, and then and it tells you exactly in there, okay, now everybody take out 3 pennies, and and it's very, very interesting. It's really a different kind of experience than traditional RPGs, for sure.
I was thinking, one game we did actually play that was a storytelling game was Spoken Magic by Dylan Grinder. We did that for the stream the charity stream we did last month. And Spoken Magic does use cards, and is basically like prompt based again, like travel from place to place, and every single place you travel goes to a different person on the table, and they decide where we're going, what this place looks like, and everything, and then you draw a card that tells you what's wrong with this place. And then you use the magic cards that to kind of try and either solve, or at least partially solve, the issues that may be plaguing this new place you've come to. And for me, that was my first narrative game, and it was interesting because, like, at first it's like, well, but so the world is not built beforehand. It is not in one person's head. But by the end of the game, we had built a place that was like this. I would love to adventure in this world we just created over the past 2 hours.
That's cool.
and like the different places we came up with, and the little issues that started happening really left like a framework of a very interesting story. We didn't get to play the whole like loop, but it's slow to start because people aren't ready for the improv, but once you get into it, people start like thinking of different things and adding to it, and it was really interesting. I think it's like improv theater, I guess, except you're all sitting down and talking instead of actually acting it out.
There's a great game called Microscope, which is it's supposed to be a game on its own, where basically the whole game is creating a setting, and it has a framework that has you it has everybody together. There's no like there's no real GM role, right? I mean, it kind of does have one, but that's just the person who kind of understands how it works and makes sure that everybody stays within the constraints of what's supposed to be happening. But basically what happens is you decide a time period that you want to create, and you create different pieces of history in that world, and you define certain people and places and certain events that happened, and you flesh them out as much or as little as you want, and then at the end of it you now have this, and it's, we're talking about 2 hours or something, right? You have this game setting that you could call that the end of it. Okay, that was the game, was creating this really interesting setting. Wow, that was fun, because you end up bouncing off of people, and different people have different thoughts about what's happening and how that could affect their portion that they were talking about and stuff like that. But you can also use it as, if you're playing even a game like D&D, and you want to sit down and have everybody be really invested in the setting, you sit down for your first session and you flesh that out, and then at the end of that session you decide, okay, what time period are we going to play in this world? Like, and I mean, you actually decide that at the beginning, like, we're going to create the history of this up to the point where our characters are going to be set down in this world. So let's create this whole history, and then it kind of feels a little more organic, because so like, and this gets us back into DnDeBrief. Like, in this game that we're playing right now, well, in a few minutes, I have all this lore in my head about what has happened in previous games I've run, and in the setting as I sort of conceive of it and set it out, and wrote it down, and different developments over the years that I've been playing in this setting, because it's my own homebrew setting. But none of you have that. The only information you have is information that I give to you because your character tried to find out something, or you went to a place and you learned about it from the people that you met there. But that still comes from me. You didn't have any of that beforehand, before your character did an action or an activity to gain that information. But if you sit down to play a game and you play Microscope first, or you run through the Microscope exercise, might be a better way of saying it, first, at the end of that session, every single person has the same exact amount of information in their brain about the setting. And that means that when you play the game, everybody has the same amount of buy-in to the setting as what the DM would typically have in a sort of more traditional D&D game, right? So it's a way to play a game where everybody has knowledge about the setting, but that doesn't mean you have to play in a setting like Forgotten Realms, where the reason everybody has knowledge is because they can buy the books themselves and read about it, right? So it's kind of an interesting thing. But the way it basically runs is as a GM-less narrative historical creation exercise to create this piece of setting for you to play in. It's really interesting.
Shit, I muted myself. I'm still looking for it, but I know there's a game. It's actually, because I saw it on Roll20 Marketplace. There's a game that's like that, but like, it's actually based on making the map of a world as a game. So you start with a blank canvas and you start drawing locations and fleshing them out. And at the end, you end up with this like map of the world where you can then either leave it, like that's it, or you can use it as a basis for a more traditional campaign.
Yeah, I think that one's called The Quiet Year. Is that it? Where you use a deck of cards
Yes, I
to
think it is the Quiet
yeah,
Year.
because I was looking for a game for my wife that when she's in her classroom with more adult kids, it would be perfect for her to run over a couple hours. And I really like that one because in that one you don't take on any of the characters. It's not a first person, so it's not so personal. So the kids could just like draw a card, and then each kid could come up with the event or the item on the map or location that they can add to it. And I think that would be perfect for a classroom type environment.
Yeah.
Yeah, the quiet year can get really intense. It can get really intense. There's another game that I have that is sort of like that. It's it's called "Do Not Let Us Die in the Cold Dark of This Winter" or something like that. It's just really long name. But basically, what it's a village building game, and so as you're playing this game, you're creating the village and telling the story of this village and its struggles and the people in it and their struggles up through this winter that's really really harsh and horrible, and the people are starting to starve, and that sort of thing. So it's one of those kind. It gets really depressing. But it's really intense because what happens is you get to tell the story of the rivalries in the village and what the village, how it used to be and how it is now, and it's just a very interesting sort of exercise, right?
I
I know
found the one I
some
had.
people hesitate to call these things games because
Mhm.
there's no there's no real win conditions, and while there's no real win condition in D&D, there is the advancement which gives you that winning feeling, and there's winning in battles, individual battles. So there is kind of a win sort of simulated win condition in D&D, but in some of these games there's really no win condition. So for some people they don't consider them games at all. They're storytelling exercises and that's it. And I'm not here to argue one way or the
Fair.
other of
Yeah.
those, but
I found the one I was thinking of. It's called Travel Log
Oh,
yeah.
on the marketplace. And yeah, that one's also like, yeah, collaborative world building. Um, the nice thing about the Roll20 version is it actually has the stamps of like different locations, so you don't
Nice.
have to draw everything. You
Right.
can also use like the stamps. Yeah, that one sounded fun for like just creation wise. But yeah, there's a lot of games like that, and I feel like they've multiplied recently, like maybe this year or maybe in the last year. Via itch, there's just so many iterations and people who have taken a like basis of one game and then done their own spin on it, so you get like what kind of like game you want to play, and then you have, well, it can be either fantasy, sci-fi, or horror or whatever, but it's using the same base.
Yeah. I mean, it's really a it's a big departure from a traditional role playing game like D&D. So there's a lot of people who, when they discover such a thing, it's like a revelation to them. Like
mm.
it's a structured way to play cowboys and Indians.
Yeah.
For lack of a better, to play imaginary games. It's a different way to do it, and there's still structure there a little bit, but there's not so much that it forces you into a certain style of play, for example, like Dungeons and Dragons does, right? Dungeons and Dragons, the rules of the game, the mechanics of the game, the character building mechanics, they all support a very specific style of play. And not that a group can't play it slightly differently from another group, but in general, most tables you could walk from table to table at a convention and you could say, yeah, they're playing D&D, yeah, they're playing D&D, yeah, they're playing D&D, even if they're playing vastly different types of games or in a vastly different setting. Whereas some of these sort of more storytelling narrative style games, you might not necessarily know what they're doing, but I think a person who is open-minded and walks up to that table will understand they're playing a game, right? That's a narrative game. It's an actual game. They're doing things that have some constraints. Maybe the constraints aren't huge, but they are constraints. And so, I mean, heck, I love all kinds of games. So I just, I want people to have fun playing games. So, you know.
And I've got a list of about 7 or 8 new ones to go check out. So thank you all.
Oh, good. Anything else before we get started? That was a real nice discussion. I love talking about other games because I think for some people D&D is RPGs and that's it, and you're probably never going to change their mind. That's all they're really interested in playing, and they have a certain style that they want to play that in, and that's fine. I don't mean that in a derogatory manner. I just mean that's, some people have enough energy for one to learn one game really well, right? And look, D&D has a lot of rules, and there's a lot of different nuances to playing the different types of classes and subclasses and races and in different settings and all that. And that's perfectly fine if that's all somebody has the bandwidth for in terms of what they want to spend their time on. But for those who do want to kind of branch out and experience something else, there are a ton of games out there that provide a different experience, and not just a different experience in terms of, oh, well, it's not a class-based game, it only runs on skills and you don't really have level-based advancement, right? But I mean, like, very, very different. Like, these storytelling games are so different from D&D. They're kind of two ends of a long spectrum,
Yeah.
right?
I think the fun thing about the narrative games is most traditional TTRPG games are more about, like, from a personal perspective. So you create a character and you have the lived experiences of that character. But when you get into narrative games, now you're thinking of, like, more, like, there's some games, and here I'm forgetting names, but, like, there's some games that where each person at the table represents a different country and they decide everything about that country. Or maybe it's more like, yeah, you're just, everyone creates a different place in the world.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And there's also games that are like, because I just remembered of one that I figured would be interesting to mention since this is a D&D podcast. There's a game called Session Zero, which is basically a card-based create your character game. And it helps you develop, like, the backstory and what makes a character tick. Not mechanically, just narratively, like, build your different characters as a group activity and how they are intertwined together. And it's meant to be used as a pre-campaign, pre-character creation.
Mm-hmm.
Come up with your characters via this card game, and then you have the character base personality, and then you grab the D&D handbook and see how to give it stats.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So that's another way that, like, these narrative games can help whatever you're playing afterwards to, like, build up a bit more nuance and as a collaborative sort of situation.
Yeah, that's a more structured way of doing a little bit of what I do in the beginning of my campaigns, which I always refer to as cooperative party building, and that is if you go back and listen to the very first episode, at the beginning of the first episode, I asked questions like, which character, which PC do you trust the most, and which one do you not trust, and why don't you trust them, and what's your main goal, and who's your rival. And we did a little bit of that when Matt and Karu came on, and we did a little bit of it at the beginning, and learning all those things. And you do it so that everyone can sort of hear what's going on with the other characters. That way there's a sort of common knowledge that you can push on during the game if you want to. And putting it in a formalized session zero kind of style where you're spending basically the whole session doing no mechanical things, just doing character building type things is really cool. Yeah, I have the PDF of that thing, so that session zero game. So
yeah, I saw it on Twitter when they were giving away a physical copy, and I was like, I'll try.
Yeah.
I didn't win it, but
Yeah.
I might still pick it up. I just haven't
Fun
really
thing
had
to-
a chance to start campaigns because I keep doing either one shots or I have already way too many long-term campaigns running. So
Yeah. And when you run a published campaign, it's a little harder to do something like that in a way, because with a published campaign, there's an expected storyline. And so in a lot of ways, there are certain types of characters that fit really well into that kind of expected storyline. And it's not that you couldn't fit a different kind of character in there, it's just that it's harder to fit a different kind of character in there. Whereas a game like Session Zero really works best when you begin wide open, like with no real idea of what you're going to be doing other than it's going to be a fantasy game, right? Like, and then you can if you know that you're playing Baldur's Gate Descent into Avernus, there's going to be a certain type of style of character that's going to play in that campaign really well, and that's a constraint that is okay. But if you're running an exercise like Session Zero, it kind of it puts a little too much onto it. So I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. It's one of the reasons that published adventures are more difficult for me to run, because I feel like they are written with a certain set of characters and skill sets in mind, and if someone in the party or the majority of the party doesn't want to conform to that, it can make it a little more difficult to try to make that work and fit within what makes sense for a storyline. But
it definitely has that constraint of like, when you're making characters, you have that social agreement of not just you're in a party, you're in a party that is, say, gonna go and stop Tiamat for being summoned in Tyranny of Dragons. You can't make a character that doesn't want to have anything to do with the cult.
Right.
Yeah.
Unless you build into that character also a reason for them to have to.
Yeah. Right. Otherwise, generally you say, okay, well, then that person, stays at home and doesn't take part in this adventure, and please make someone who is gonna be focused on this.
Yeah, you have to. There has to be a like, and that's why most adventures end up having the like bonds that are particular to that campaign to help the characters have some kind of reason to care about what's going on, because it doesn't work. You can't run a module if everyone's like, yeah, no, my character's deathly afraid of dragons and they flee as soon as the dragon shows up. Let's play Dungeons and Dragons.
To be fair, that is sensible. That is
absolutely sensible.
Yeah.
Are you trying to foreshadow us for the next couple of sessions?
Oh.
What?
And really quick, Carl, I didn't mean for to leapfrog the topics you had listed. That just with what I was thinking, I was thinking that's something we could talk about.
Oh no, we can talk about things. Those were just ideas I came up with, and I was like, I'm going to write them down because I have already forgotten them. I didn't read them before the game, so that's why I wrote them down.
No, I appreciate that. In fact, I'm gonna I will pin those. I will pin that so that we have it now, so that when we come back in next time, we can actually just pick right up on those topics. So
yeah, I wasn't sure how many of the like older topics we had, so when I came up with a couple, I was like, okay, writing those down.
Yeah, no, that's good. Yep. That's good.
And I'm gonna post some links in our own Discord about it, like for just the games we've been talking about. If you want that I've been finding, if you want to go check them out.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so let's move on from that then, and let's talk about a recap of last session. Who wants to recap?
Oh boy.
I can recap.
We did a lot of reading. We are still stuck in the library. 15 years have passed outside.
We turned a skeleton into a professor.
Yes, you did turn a skeleton into a professor. That's true.
True. I'm looking forward to seeing that professor today. We did come up with a bunch of we found a bunch of maps of old-timey ye old world map. Discovered that whatever happened with the sinking, it wasn't just a sinking or a flooding, it was something a lot weirder, because mountain ranges have disappeared. Places that were like coastal are still up. Well, not coastal, but I don't know if Lake Calrot was probably higher than coast, but still. Weird shit's gone on in this world. We also finished figuring out what the Book of Proof said we had to do to save the world. And we were given a lot of information about that, and I'll admit it all kind of went over my head. But apparently, we have something, the start of a plan. Something. We also read a lot of books. Something about the Rift and the Final Dirge. The beginning of the end. And I know we ended with, there was one more book we were interested in seeing before leaving the library, and it was like on the other side of the library. But it seemed like an important book, especially given the fact that it couldn't be moved. And that it was beside one of the gates that was apparently one of the things we need to reverse the sinking. So we figured, we should probably check that out before we leave. And nothing bad will happen because we're in a library, and obviously libraries are perfectly safe, and there are no monsters or dangers in a library. Maybe ghosts. I could see ghosts in a library this big. Just people who came in there. The problem is, if you're in a library, the ghosts are probably busy just reading, because that's probably how they die.
Yeah, all they're gonna do is just shush you.
Yeah. Just as long as you're quiet, you're fine. Just don't interrupt the ghost that's reading their books. It's fine. We'll be fine.
It's not gonna be like the beginning of Ghostbusters at all.
Yeah.
Or the end. Or the end of Ghostbusters.
And the other way we can reverse the thinking is just go back into the past and prevent Cornelius from killing Batet. But I think we decided that changing the timeline was probably not a good thing, even if we could find a way to go back. Looking forward to the bargaining using a gate from a hellish creature.
Yeah, because we like part of the way we figured we could get to the Blue Plateau is essentially going through the Infernal Gate, or at least convincing them to let the powers that be within that Infernal Gate let all the water kind of run through their domain back into the Blue Plateau, which we have to go and fix the well of Capitalis, I think it was. We have to fix that first. Then somehow siphon all the water in this plane through one or two other plateaus before it finally gets back to where it's supposed to be.
Sounds easy.
Yeah.
Real easy.
No big deal. It's basically done now that you know what you have to do. It's done.
Let's end our campaign, guys. We solved the riddle. Let's go home.
Or I like the way Carp put it. Yeah, we can do all that or time travel. Yeah, wibbly wobbly, timey wimey.
Yeah. Then there's all the nagging question of, did we save just one timeline with that, or all time? I mean, to be fair, we're always ever gonna solve one timeline. There's no changing that. If we don't time travel, we're just saving our timeline anyways.
And remember, though, that time is not a linear. Time
feels
linear to you, but in the grand scheme of the universe, it is not linear to other beings. So, anybody else have anything to add?
I think Emmeryn's mother. We kind of closed out with Emmeryn's mother deciding she was going to make a visit to the library, looking at some of her own things, and she was heading to the Ossuary, I believe.
Oh, that's right. With Blacksley, I believe, right? He's there too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay, so let me remind you of some facts just to have them fresh in your mind, because theoretically they just happened like 2 seconds ago. So Axley thinks that, and Marcel agrees, and basically everybody agreed that Laralac must be a pseudonym, and there must be a motive for the sinking, and that probably Shemasa Hasit is using Laralac to gain souls to get power by promising Laralac some kind of eternal reward of some sort. That's kind of the thought on Laralac and Shemasa Hasit and how they're related. And Laralac must be a pseudonym. And you also learned that Tefadus and Allegre Hammond produced the Book of Proofs together. Axley thinks that Laralac is a pseudonym either for Allegray Hammond or Batet or Tefadus, one of those three. That those three seem to be names that keep coming up, and they seem to be very powerful. And so, why wouldn't it be one of them? In the auditorium, you met Gaston, who had met Laralac. Batet, sorry. Don't take that as any kind of... I was reading on the page. The skeleton met Batet because Batet was doing the lecture that awakened... That's why I was thinking of Laralac, because you guys think Laralac is awakening all of these undead sea creatures, but Batet supposedly awakened all of these skeletons in the auditorium. In the map room, you figured out that the map of the continents doesn't match with the idea of a flood being the sinking, as Karu mentioned. That obviously something happened, and why did Cowport survive, and why did Trastenfinn survive when some of the mountains are gone? You wrote in the Book of Proofs, there is a way to remove the affliction plaguing Lucanius, leaving him alive and healthy at the end. That's the current message that the book is working on. You went to get the Batet works in the fictional history section.
And that's where we discovered the rift in the final dirge.
Yeah, so Tavros told you that Batet wrote 4 books 51 years ago, so a year before the sinking. He wrote The Collected Wisdom of the Conquered Peoples. He wrote the book that talked about the demon history and the Shemasa Hasit individual. He wrote an untitled book that is the one that is in the room with the Infernal Gate, that's in the Reaches part of the library, that is 6 hours away. And he wrote The Rift and the Final Dirge, which was in Stacks J, which is where you are right now. Actually, I guess technically you went back to the map room at the end of the session. You found out that the transportation rings that are in the library, that Tavros considers the beginning location and the destination ring to both be part of the library. So, in his estimation, the library does reach into different areas, even though the actual physicality of the space of the library does not range farther out than the city limits of Cowport. You learned that Batet wrote books, and he acts as a mixture of Homer, Ovid, Virgil, and Herodotus. And that means that so Marcel's response was, well, that's why he's in fictional history, because everything that he wrote is based on whoever his patron was that paid him to write it. You learned that Cowport was a major power, and that Batet has written several historical documents regarding the noble families in Cowport. The thing that you didn't mention yet is you also found a book written by Batet that is somewhat like Plato's Dialogues, where Ian Tarsis and Delencia are debating how you name the king of a new kingdom. Like, who do you name as the king of the new kingdom? And The Rift and the Final Dirge is like a book of Revelations that describes the 6 disastrous precursors to the end of the world. And then that's when Emmeryn sent a message to Blacksley and found out that he was with Rayla in the ossuary, because she said she said there was something she had to get to help you. And first, he didn't tell you he was in the ossuary. He told you that later. And then we ended right after Axley basically told you all what his transcription determined, and that was that you can't stop the flood until you make it so that wherever the water would go to can still hold the water that you would be putting back into it. And right now there is a flaw in the plateau, and so you have to fix that gap first. And Earl says, "Yes, let's go do it." You have to fix
Earl
that.
says, enough talk.
Yeah, that's right. You have to fix that gap first, and then you can revert and put the water back into that area, right? The well of Capitalis is where the flaw is. It's where that gap is that has to be filled. In other words, it's where the water's leaking out of the Blue Plateau. So, to fix the flaw, then that means you've closed that passageway. So you have to find a way back to your plateau, and then open a passageway that will allow you to take the stuff that had been drained out of the Blue Plateau and put it back into where it's supposed to go. But to do that, you need to use an infernal gate. And to use that infernal gate, you either have to bargain for the rights to it or steal the rights to move the material through that gate. Because the Blue Plateau, the Threefold Lake, and the Common Plateau, all three are involved, you can't just reverse the process. You have to do it in that order. You have to fix the hole first, fix the flaw first. Other than if you want to do the thing that the book presumed mortals cannot directly do, and that was to, go back and stop Cornelius from killing Batet. So most of it. It was a long session with a lot of information.
Yeah. And we don't even know where this well of Capitalis is.
Yeah, you do. I think you do. Because you know that maybe you don't. I don't know.
Well,
how
if we
much
can
you learned.
say if we can get to the Blue Plateau, and I think one of the sides on that cubic travel device we have goes there. We could use our locator rod, say, okay, point us towards the well of Capitalis, and follow that.
Then how do we close the gate?
Well, yeah, that's
just stick your
One
finger in it.
step at a time.
I mean, if it is what I think it is, then sticking a certain piece of coral in it might do it.
Mm.
If it is what I think it is.
Yeah, I think we've been operating with the idea that your coral has to do with that, and that we already have the thing to plug it. We could be very wrong. It would be really awkward to get there and find that out. But
Like showing up to a party and you're wearing a costume and nobody else is.
yeah.
Got tuxedos on. Like, oops, wrong party.
So you may not know exactly where everything is, but you know that the Soul Spire spans. So the top of the Soul Spire is in the White Plateau, and the bottom of the Soul Spire is in the Red Plateau.
Oh.
And the Dark Plateau is roughly in the middle of the Soul Spire. Like the middle of the Soul Spire goes through the Dark Plateau. Okay? And you know that the Palace of the Fated is in that area where the Dark Plateau is. you've never been to the White Plateau, you've never been to the Red Plateau, and you've also never really seen anything about them. But you do know that the Threefold Lake, the Soul Spire pours into the Threefold Lake. And whoever Konos contacted when he cast his spell, lived in the bottom of the Threefold Lake.
Mm-hmm. Oh, and I did contact other plane.
Yeah. So all of that's connected. Now, you don't know where the Well of Capitalis is in there because you have not made that connection in terms of the knowledge. But you do know of another well.
The Well of Hasit.
The Well of Hasit.
Wasn't wells also another name for like for the portals between planes? That was ladders and gates.
Ladders, gates, and rifts. So a ladder,
Okay,
a ladder
yeah.
lets you go down, and a gate lets you go up, basically, in a manner of speaking. A ladder lets you go in one direction. Most often they are associated with going into the Dark Plateau, which is considered, quote, down. A gate lets you go from one plateau to another. It's kind of lateral, not up. But you can't use a gate to get to the Dark Plateau. You have to use a ladder. And then there's the third idea is a rift, or the third kind of connection is a rift, and that's actually where there's a tear in the border between two different plateaus, and so that tear in the border opens up a gap between those two plateaus, so that it ends up being a passageway if you use it as one, but it's extremely unpredictable and very dangerous. And remember that the book that the translation that Axley was doing, one of the reasons why it was difficult to try to make it understandable was that translation said that the Blue Plateau has a rift in it, and that's what needs to be fixed, right? Except that it's using rift as not a rift like what you normally think of rifts as a place where the connection between two plateaus, or the border between two plateaus, is ripped, and so that actually causes all kinds of problems there, and it's very unstable because the different elements from the one plateau leads to another plateau or can drip into another plateau. But the transcription that Axley did of what the Book of Proofs said is using a rift more in terms of a flaw, not a passageway, whereas a gate and a ladder and a rift could all be considered passageways. The way that the book was using the word rift was as a flaw, as a hole, as a gap, not as a passageway. So it created some confusion. So the question is, what would you like to do next?
I think we're trying to find your mom, right? First and foremost, try to.
Probably at some point, yeah.
We were talking about how it's probably not a good place to just get split up in or get lost in.
Definitely not.
I guess the main question we have now is, do we go to the ossuary first, or do we go check out the book and the rift and the gate? That's 6 hours away. Also, do we just do this, or do we want to leave the library and check out how long it's been outside? And because 6 hours is a lot. I don't know how long we've been in here already, but it's probably been at least a couple of hours. We've done a lot of reading, so yeah. I guess
I say, yeah, I don't really trust Laxley in here by himself. So let's find them at least, and then take a minute to process what we've already learned, and then maybe we can come back and look at the other book. But I feel like we should at least check and make sure it hasn't been like a day,
15 years.
full
Mhm.
day.
And if they just got in here themselves, they could tell us,
Right.
more
Yeah.
about what's going on outside.
So to the ossuary?
Sure.
I like it.
More bones.
Do you know where the ossuary is?
No, but I believe we had what's his name with us? Because he was gonna lead us.
Tavros?
We had Tavros was with us because he was gonna lead us to the book that couldn't be moved.
Mhm.
Okay.
And if he wasn't there immediately, then we'll just call him and ask him about how to get to the ossuary. Or, I feel like given he's a ghost and seems to have nothing better to do, we might just ask him to guide us instead of taking directions, because last time the directions weren't exactly up to date.
Mhm.
Yeah,
I
he
don't
hadn't
think
been
so.
aware that parts of the place had submerged and collapsed, right?
There was some things missing that he said we were supposed to pass, so
Are you going to mention to him that his directions were out of date?
nah.
I will suggest to you that you perhaps passed things that you did not know you were passing because you did not enter any rooms that you weren't absolutely sure were
That's
in the
true.
direction you needed to go.
It's very true. It's just, when they say you're going to pass in beehive, you expect to hear bees or something, and we didn't. So our expectations were foiled, and therefore beehive clearly doesn't exist.
And there's
What I
no
hear is
printing
that you would
presses
like
or whatever.
to encounter the beehive on your way
No.
to the ossuary. That's what I'm taking from you. Tavros says he has no problem leading you to the ossuary. It's relatively close to where you are right now.
Excellent. I like you, Tavros. You're a good guy.
He says, do you want the shortest route, or do you want the route through the main halls?
Let's take the shortest
Yeah,
route.
that sounds
Yeah,
interesting.
that was.
Okay.
We
Yeah,
were
I'm
all afraid to
curious.
say it, but yeah, let's go short.
Okay, so he leads you. Oh, what are you doing with the book?
Oh,
Which book?
The book of proofs.
proofs. It's
Is it
writing.
still working? It's still working.
It's still
Working.
working.
We can close it while it works, though, right?
No, can
Yeah. No. I can use Mage Hand to just, basically carry it open, as we're walking, have it following us.
Okay.
floating book behind us? Yeah.
Pretty
No
much.
one can see the hand.
Okay.
Sir, there's a book following you. I know. Does Tavros seem interested or recognize that the Book of Proofs at all?
I mean, remember you can't see his face because he has a big cowl. It has a cloak on that has a cowl that just sort of hangs down and obscures his face at all times. So he has
Kinda hard
not mentioned it to you, and he has not made any motions or indication that he even sees it.
Okay.
So he leads you down the hall, and he actually leads you through the door that goes into the Stacks J, which is where you actually had the 6 bookcases of Batette's works. And he leads you through this sort of maze-like series of bookcases and shelves and all that, through an archway into another area where there's a bunch of stacks of books, and then through a door with a very short hallway, which then leads you through a room where someone roll me a d12.
Those aren't used often.
Mm.
Oh, I rolled a 1.
Okay. The room that you go into, and Tavros, by the way, is moving really fast, and he does not seem to be acknowledging or looking at anything. But he leads you out of the room with the stacks, through a short archway, through a short hallway, and then into a very much larger room. And when you enter the room, you can either sort of go to the left, or you can go up this flight of about 6 or 7 stairs. And as he leads you up the stairs, and you get up to the stairs, and you realize that you are in a large room that has chairs on each side. It's rectangular, and there are chairs on each side in a sort of amphitheater style. So, there's a row of chairs, and there's chairs above it, and then there's chairs above it, and then there's chairs above it. And that's the same on the east and the western walls. But in the middle, down at the bottom, there's a little stage. And on the stage is a table, a surgical table. And on the surgical table is a very large spider that is being dissected by a humanoid-shaped creature. You can't really see that they're kind of in all scrubs. And the person doing the dissection is talking through everything that's happening, talking about the carapace and the thickness of the carapace, and how to determine whether there's blood vessels investing the carapace, or only investing the parts of the flesh under the carapace, and all of this sort of thing, right? And then, sorry, Nina. And you notice that sitting in some of the chairs in this amphitheater, in the surgical amphitheater, think of this like if you've ever seen like a medical school show where at some point they go in and they're surgeons, and they're actually performing surgery in the amphitheater, and there's people watching, right? Medical students are watching. That's kind of what's happening here, except it's a giant spider that's being dissected, and it's not alive, so they're not doing surgery. It's actually dead, but the person, whoever's doing the dissection, is talking through what they're doing. And there's about 40 skeletons sitting in the chairs watching the dissection silently. And Tavros leads you up the stairs so that you're sort of at the top, and you're looking down at the heads of these 40 skeletons watching. And he leads you through that. You go downstairs on the other side when you get all the way down the rectangular portion of the room, and then out an archway.
I have a question.
Yes.
Are the skeletons just sitting there, or is there movement within the crowd?
They're just sitting there.
So they just died watching kind of situation here? Probably, maybe.
Are you going to stop and try to find out, or are you going to keep following?
Just like glancing over, seeing if there's any movement.
You can roll a medicine check.
Medicine check.
I guess it's true what they say. You never do stop learning.
Well, that was better than a 1. However, that was a 6.
You can't tell really how long they've been there, or if they just kind of died in their seats. I mean, they're not desiccated mummies, so they're like dry bone skeletons. sitting there. That's kind of all you can tell, unless you stop and do more investigation.
This guy's moving pretty fast, and I already have a walking speed of 25, so I'll just...
Emmeryn's like this.
Blinders on.
Doing tunnel vision. So he leads you out of there, and you take a sharp right, and he leads you down some stairs, some steep stairs about 20-30 feet down, and through a couple of passageways, and then quickly up another set of stairs, and you see the passageways move on, and there's more branching. And then there's a door in front of you, and there's a very small hallway, and then in front of that is a door, and he says that is the entrance to the ossuary. Would you like me to accompany you inside?
I don't think that's necessary. Thank you, Tavros. We'll let you know when
Before
we need
you even
help.
finish, he poofs and disapparates.
And he's gone.
He's got places to be.
Everyone roll me a perception check, please.
Let's try a different dice. Hey, that's better. 20. Non-natural.
11.
9.
12.
Marcel, you hear from beyond the door, you hear a sound that sounds, let's see if I could, sounds kind of like this.
Yeah, your mic's not picking it up.
It's not picking it up at all?
I think you'd have to talk because it's cutting off sounds in the background for you, helpfully.
Yeah, right. Damn it. It sounds like something hollow tapping on something else hollow. And it's not in a pattern. It's more like groups or bursts of tapping, and then the silence for a moment, and then tapping in a different kind of pattern.
So, like, someone looking for a false wall would like tap 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 in one place and then tap 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 in another.
Roll me an intelligence check.
Oh, I'm great at those. It's 12 plus 1, 13.
Yeah, you can't really tell what it is. It sounds.
Well,
It's not methodical like what you're describing
okay.
would be somebody methodically like tap tap.
Tap tap. Yeah.
Tap.
So
it's not like that at all.
So it's not just that there's like there's no rhythm at all in any point in the sequence. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, well, either someone's dancing in there and doesn't know how to dance, or something's tapping in the other. Ow! Hey, cat!
Foreshadowing. Thanks, Earl.
He muted me. He sat on my mute key. I was tapping my desk and he decided to bite my because I was tapping right where his feet were. I'm not playing with you. Go away. So, yeah, tapping. Probably nothing. Maybe.
Does it sound like a bunch of skeletons just walking around or anything like that?
There would be more rhythm to walking around than this.
Okay.
But something hollow tapping against something hollow? Maybe it's Blacksley tapping his head against a box.
Okay.
That's two hollow things, right?
Ooh.
Ouch.
That's a theory.
Shall we?
Sure.
After you, Emmeryn.
Yeah, sure thing.
I have to keep up my streak of not taking any damage.
So you walk into the room, you open the door, and what you see is immediately, Emmeryn, you see your mother in the corner. The room is roughly rectangular, although there's a bit of hallway that sort of juts into it and forms a door, so it's kind of almost L-shaped, like a fat L. But you see your mother in the corner, standing in front of a glass-fronted display case that she has opened, and she is looking through a pile of stuff on the shelves, and every once in a while just pushing some things around. And you see Blacksley sort of behind her, and every once in a while she picks something up and sort of tosses it, and he tries to catch it but often doesn't succeed in catching it. And you see that what she's sort of picking up and throwing after her are these little bones. And when you look at the rest of the room, what you see is the walls lined with these almost bookcases that have glass fronts, and inside each of these are sets of bones, some of them packed like Tetris style into these sort of displays. And it looks like they're all neatly labeled, although you can tell that a couple of these bookcases have been messed with.
Damage?
Yeah, sort of scrambled up, right?
So not like there was an earthquake and some of them fell, and more like someone opened it and messed with the contents.
Correct.
Okay.
In the middle of the room, there is a table, and the table has a wooden case on it, and the wooden case is about 6-7 inches high, maybe 8 inches high. And it basically fills the entire table, and there's a glass kind of covering over half of it, so you could slide it down so that you could see and have access to one half, and you could slide it the other way to have access to the other half. And you're not standing close enough to see what's in there, but you can guess probably from what's in the other cabinets that there's probably bones in there as well.
Well, it's not called an ossuary for nothing.
Correct.
Hi, Blacksley. You're not very good at catching things.
I can't help it. I put my hand out and they move at the last second.
What?
Yeah, it's like I put my hand out and they move because they want to go to the floor, not in my hands. It's crazy.
What are you all looking for in here?
I'm not. I'm just trying to make sure she doesn't make a giant mess.
Too late.
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah, what are we looking for?
I'm looking for the key, your mom says.
What key?
The key. It's here somewhere. I know it is.
Key to what?
The key to the spire room. We have to put the book back.
Why do we need to put the book back?
I figured it out. That's when this whole thing started. When I got the book, that's when everything went bad.
I think that happened. Everything started like 50 years ago, maybe 51 years ago to be precise.
No, I just need the key. I just need the key. It's in here. I know it is.
Pretty sure things went to shit a long time before that happened.
What makes you think the key to the spy room is in here, amongst all these bones?
This is where I found it when I was here the first time.
Ah, yes, and of course the key would be placed back in the place where there's a bunch of bones, because that's where you keep all your keys, right?
she sort of pauses. She looks and she says, "You're right. I didn't put it back. I didn't put it back in the ossuary. Where did I put it? Where did I put it? I can't. I have to try to remember. I can't remember. I gotta." And she kind of sits down and she puts her forehead in her hand and she says, "Okay, I just need to think. Everybody, be quiet. Be quiet. Quit talking. I said, shut up. Quit talking. Why
We're
can't
not
you all
talking.
just follow my directions? Stop talking for a second. I just need to think for 1 second."
Maybe
I'm
get
gonna
out of the
put-
room full of bones.
I'm gonna put socks on her lap. That seems to help.
Yeah, she immediately kind of, "Thank you all for being quiet for 2 seconds. I just need to think for a minute. I know if I find the key, then we could put the book back, then we could leave, and it would all be perfect again." She's kind of absentmindedly petting Socks.
Do any of the rest of us hear any voices in here?
No.
Cool. So are any of the bones moving?
You can roll me a perception check. All right. I mean, is everybody going to enter the room? Because right now you're all just kind of standing at the doorway.
Steady.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, I did to like put socks in.
Oh, that's true. You did come in. You noticed, Emmeryn, when you walked in and you walked by the table in the middle, the bones in that table did seem to kind of rustle.
Why are all the bones interested in Emmeryn? I rolled a perception check, so
You're too focused on
12.
19, which makes it higher than that.
Natural 20.
Look at
Okay,
my bonus.
so Axley and Emmeryn, you both notice that the bones that Blacksley picks up and tries to put back in the cabinet, when he sets them on the shelf in the cabinet, they kind of move to a place so that they're fit in Tetris-like again into a display. And as they move, you hear this sort of hollow tapping as they move by, and they fit themselves back in. And when they do that, you notice that the middle tables, this is only Emmeryn and Axley, notice that the bones in the middle table sort of rearrange themselves and become sort of set up slightly differently. And you hear that sort of tapping, unpatterned tapping.
It's very puzzly.
Yeah, I don't
But-
know what's going on.
I will think to Blacksley, hey, stop putting the bones back for a minute.
But you don't want me to clean it up?
Just wait a minute is all.
Fine. He kind of walks by, tries to go to the door next to Marcel. And you notice, Emmeryn and Axley notice again that as Blacksley walks by, those bones sort of shift. The ones in the middle table shift a lot to form a sort of a different lumpy pile of bones.
So the bones don't like you, huh, Blacksley?
What do you mean? I put them back. They love me.
Yeah, I think. Well, yeah, but you couldn't catch them in the air because they were like moving away from you.
So, they're magical, I'm sure. I mean, look. Can't you see them all? They're all in weird
bones.
dioramas. They're strange.
Yeah, they are. I've seen a lot of bones today. Some of them even talk. They need jaws for that, though.
Can I run a quick detect magic just out of curiosity?
Sure.
You are blinded by magic.
I'm sure I will be, but I'm curious to see if this key gives off a different anything. Off anything at all. If it's even here. I don't know what's happening.
There is a very distinct, other than, the various magical items that each of you have on you. In this room, that pile of bones on the middle table, there is a very distinct transmutation signature coming from not the bones themselves, but something obviously that the bones are covering in that middle table.
Go on, Em. Put your hand inside the bone pile.
Emmeryn hates this library.
Thought we traveled so far to get here.
I know. Yeah, sure. I'm just gonna look at it first. Does it like move if I get close to it?
If you walk close to it, or
Mhm.
put your hand close to it.
I'll put my hand close to it.
I need everybody to roll initiative.
Oh my
Okay.
Okay.
No! Disturb the bone.
Bad decisions were made.
Well, that was my highest roll yet.
Oh, that was a pretty bad one for me.
Even the D&D Beyond dice hate me 7.
Oh, I rolled a natural 1.
Oh no!
I rolled a 20, non-natural.
Oh my god. 8 total.
All right, I'm rolling. Here I go.
Sorry. Did not mean to squeak.
I rolled an 11.
Oh boy. What are we fighting?
So Emmeryn rolled an 8. Is that?
Yes.
What did Marcel roll?
20.
Okay. And Axley?
I rolled a 1, so it's 5 with my initiative bonus.
And Konos?
7.
Okay. All right, so as Emmeryn puts her hand close to this pile of bones, the pile of bones forms together. A bunch of the little bone pieces in it form together and reach out and grab her hand. This is the surprise round. And I roll a natural 20.
Ooh, they do not like you.
Oh, they're mad. They are angry. I am regretting my life choices.
You take 19 damage.
Oh
my
okay.
gosh.
Ow.
Ooh.
And the the bones as they grab onto you, that the damage is dealt by these little sharp pieces of bone, like little bone shards, clawing into you as they're crawling up your arm and covering your shoulder and trying to cover your face and go down
Nope.
your trunk of your body. So this creature, in mechanical terms, this creature acts like a swarm. Okay.
Great.
And it's basically all of you. You saw Emmeryn put her hand out, and then very quickly some things crawled onto her hand and started flowing up her arm to her shoulder and down her torso and try to go up her head. They're not covering her head yet. And then it's Marcel's turn. And they're still sort of...
Help!
Okay.
I
I could do that. That might work. Bad idea to do that inside, though. No. That's just a gust of wind inside a tiny room full of bones. That'll go great. All right. Let's see what happens. I'm gonna frostbite it.
Okay.
The swarm. That's a con save for the swarm. DC 16.
Is that an area of effect spell?
No, it is not.
Okay, so it has a 50% chance of also affecting Emmeryn.
It's okay. She'll just be a bit cold.
Okay, what's the con save?
16.
Okay. No, I failed. I rolled a 7.
Okay.
So what does it do?
It does cold damage.
Okay.
So that's 6 cold damage to the swarm. And it now has disadvantage on its next attack roll.
Okay.
And that's it. That's my turn.
Okay. So it's the swarm's turn, but let me set the scene for you. You're in a room that is roughly kind of L-shaped, but it's a fat little L, so it's got a short top on it. And it is roughly 50 by 40 with part of a more coming out where that 40-foot thing is, because it's L-shaped. The tables are in the middle of the room, and they take up about 10 feet. Emmeryn is standing next to them with bones flowing up her body. And the rest of you are on a door, or near a door, in the west-facing wall. Okay? And on every on every wall in this room, other than where there are doors, are cabinets with bones in them. This thing takes disadvantage on its next attack, but what I need really from Emmeryn is a DC 16 dex check. Dex save. Let me grab my other die so I could do disadvantage. And does a 16 hit your AC? Is that a yes or a no?
Oh, sorry, I was muted, I think. Yes, it hits.
I need a DC 16 dex save from you.
And I rolled a 16.
Okay. That's good for you. Because that means that it's not able to damage you this round. So,
Oh,
Emmeryn,
cool.
It's now your turn. You are grappled, technically speaking.
Uh-huh.
So if you want to try to push these things off in mass, you can spend a turn. It'll take another DC 16 escape. So you can either use athletics or acrobatics, your choice for that. That's not a save, it's a check.
Athletics, please.
Okay.
Yeah, I definitely want to try and get away. Nope. That's a 3.
Okay. You could not. You were unable to get it. Now the good news there is it doesn't envelop any more of you. It's kind of stuck where it was, but it's still on you, which means that anything has a 50% chance. Anything they do that's not an area of effect has a 50% chance of hitting you as well.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to do anything else? You can move, but it'll move with you because it's on you. It's technically occupying your space.
Oh, dang. No, I think I'm okay where I'm at.
Okay.
I'm just like frantically shaking my arms trying to get these things off of me.
Konos?
Okay. Do I see any way of closing this cabinet or whatever that all this bone swarm is coming out of?
So this cabinet that was in the middle has only a half door, so when you can slide the door closed, but so that opens the one side, and if you slide it closed, it opens the other side.
So there's no way to completely close it. Okay.
But you want to roll me a perception check. This is not your turn, not part of your turn. I mean, you're not expending an action, but since you're sort of glancing at that, trying to figure out what to do.
Sure. Wow. With advantage, that's a 6. Wow.
So you just all you see is that the door. You can't close the thing all the way. You're either closing one half or the other, but this swarm of bones could easily just crawl through the other side.
How far away am I from Emmeryn at this point?
Probably 30 feet. If that, I mean.
Okay. Yeah, nothing I have is really going to be very much good against swarms. So I'm going to cast telekinesis.
I wonder why the DM picked that nasty creature.
So let's try this. I want to cast telekinesis, and I want to just like pull Emmeryn away from, like physically pull her away from all the bone pile, so she's not being,
okay,
grabbed by all this anymore.
Let me check.
And hopefully she doesn't bring any of it with her. It's like, hang on, I'm getting you out of there. Yoink. So I don't think I can move the swarm off of her, but I'm hoping I can move her, out of the swarm with this.
My only AoE spells are way too destructive to use inside a library. And I don't
I feel
think
like we need to move out into like the hallway. At least that way we're not breaking more cases of more bones.
Yeah.
Yeah, do the other ones seem to be reacting at all when this is happening?
Nope. Okay, so you can move Emmeryn, but to determine whether you move the creature with her or whether it hangs on to her, so to speak, I need a contested strength check. So.
Okay. It says use my spellcasting ability.
I rolled a 15. I mean,
10.
altogether.
10.
Okay, so you move Emmeryn. Where are you moving her to?
Oh, I mean, the plan was move her closer towards, just pull her back towards us.
Okay, so Emmeryn comes towards the rest of the group, and the creature is hanging on, and as she moves, it's hanging on, and you see when she gets pulled, the rest of it gets pulled out of the case, and it's large. It's very big. And it's just kind of trailing behind her, almost almost like ooze. It's just that the parts that are keeping the bones together are invisible, and it's just the bones moving. That's what it looks like anyway. It's not actually an ooze, but it's kind of flowing as if it was in some kind of a fluidy matrix almost, but it's bones instead, and it stays attached to her.
I just shout out, "Is someone try to cut her loose from this thing? I can't get her off her." My turn.
Okay. Axley.
Okay. I am going to cast Wall of Force in a like a dome shape over the casket of bones.
Okay. Okay. All right. So Wall of Force. Okay. Hold on one second. Let's see what that would do. Because I need to know how much force it's going to put on.
Okay. It says in any form the wall is 1/4 inch thick. It says if the wall cuts through a creature's space when it appears, the creature is pushed to one side of the wall. Your choice which side. Nothing can physically pass through.
Okay. There's only a slight problem with that. That the space that the creature occupies is also occupied by Emmeryn.
Well, can I just like cut it through the middle of whatever that arm is coming out and have it just split in half and capture the bulk of the thing inside that's still with the case?
Ultimately, I'm gonna let me make a dice roll, and there's a probability that the creature will let go of her and be pushed to the other side.
Okay.
As I drop my dice on the floor. Because I don't just want to arbitrarily be mean and say nope.
Sure.
Right?
Okay.
All
right.
So what I'm going to say is there is a okay. There's a 30% chance that it will hold on to Emmeryn and pull her inside the dome. Okay? Because basically, when you form the wall of force, it's getting forced into the inside of the dome, and it's either going to let go of Emmeryn or it's going to drag her with it. Right?
Do it.
Okay.
Do it. This is going to be really funny if it fails.
It failed, so it gets pulled into this dome. So you all don't actually even see a dome, but somehow Axley does something, and this creature gets pulled off of him, and it's like trying to hold on as it's scraping your arms as it's getting pulled off of you, and it's flowing, and now it's stuck, and it's trying to hit against a transparent force wall that you can't see, and it's sort of, it keeps like running at it and trying to hit its bony bulk against it, and you see these sort of, it's as if someone had a box of something, it's of dirt and stuff, and it threw it against a clear window, and you just see the stuff, and then it falls down, and then it comes back up, and it tries to keep hitting this clear wall. And as that happens, you hear Rayla say, "There it is." the key.
Uh-huh.
And you see that now that the bony creature is all the way out of the table in the middle of the room, there is a piece of amethyst in that table,
Yeah.
trapped with the bony creature
Mhm.
behind Axley's wall of force.
Well, we got some time to figure this out. I can hold this for about 10 minutes.
Boy.
So we'll flow out of initiative order. And you
For
can
10
do-
minutes.
For 10 minutes, and you can do what you want to do.
We might just have to destroy the pile of bone. Wait.
Do we? What if we just leave?
Yeah, but that's an amethyst. And if that's the key, then
We
that,
have? Don't we? I brought some.
yeah, but that's a particular piece of amethyst, right? And I look at Emmeryn's mom.
It fits the keyhole.
See, it has to be a particular piece of amethyst.
It's in like the bones that are like thrashing about.
So
Can't you do your like magic thing and destroy them?
So those bones were on a table, right?
Mhm.
And the table had a lip because it was really like a case on the table, and it had a
Mhm.
glass top, and all those bones were in there. And the magic signature that you felt when you cast Detect Magic was under that pile of bones.
Mhm.
So that bone creature flowed out of that container that was the top of that table and left the amethyst there. And that amethyst is the thing that was giving off the magical signature, and that's the key that your mom is talking about. But now
Okay.
the swarm of bones is just sitting there trying to break the wall of force. So none of it is in the table container, so
Okay.
you can see the amethyst.
So that means that the bones themselves don't have any magical aura, so it's more of an undead creature than a magicked bones.
Say that again.
Because you said the magic signature was only coming from the amethyst, so she doesn't detect any magic aura from the bones themselves.
That is, well, correct, yes.
So this is more of an undead creature than it is magical bones.
Sure.
Some kind of okay.
Marcel, do you still have your elemental bowl on you?
Yeah, I do.
What if we had a water elemental creep underneath the bottom of the wall of force into that space and gum up the works and hold all the bones in place, and at the same time pass the key out of itself back to us underneath? Would that work?
Is there a gap in the bottom of your wall of force?
I could. Can I move it? Let's see.
I don't know if you can move it.
Uh-oh. I don't like that.
Can spell effects go through, like, travel through a wall of force?
I don't think so. No.
No, it would have to be a gap. Well, I mean, a spell effect. I guess you could do something inside it. I would think.
Yeah, like I could try to. Well, I mean, I could try to pop up Otto in there, but it would go after him in a second and then bring him back. But
Nothing can physically pass through the wall.
you can't teleport through it. You can't dispel it. You can't travel through it if you're on the ethereal plane.
It is invisible though, so can something that has a range of sight be cast within the wall of force?
I think the question is, what do you cast? Like, if let me put it this way: if something has a range of sight, but if you're casting something and it has to say emit from your person,
Yeah. So, for example, an Eldritch Blast wouldn't work because it's a beam that goes from you
right,
to the
that's right.
thing. So
and
that
the
would
wall
be
of force will make it bounce off. But if the thing has an origin, so the origin of whatever the effect is within your sight, you can place the origin right next to that creature, but on the other side of the wall.
right.
Presuming Axley has told you, look, I put a 10-foot radius dome of force around that
Yeah.
area.
So that you could calculate where to put the
and
thing.
presuming that Rayla stood up and tried to go grab the amethyst, found out real quick that she can't pass it.
Okay, so I have another question for you.
Yes.
It says that it blocks ethereal plane.
Mm-hmm.
How does teleportation spells work that do not say anything about becoming ethereal? Would you be able to teleport past the wall of force?
Like with a Misty Step or Dimension Door or something.
Think more Dimension Door. I'm thinking of Far Step, but yes.
I was thinking teleport directly straight up. It just instantly transports you.
Yeah, because I can cast Far Step on myself. That lets me. It just says you teleport up to 60 feet to a non-occupied space you can see. That's all it says in terms of teleportation. So I could teleport inside the wall of force, grab the key, teleport back out.
Okay. If you're going to do that, I still have telekinesis going. It lasts as long as the wall of force. I can try to keep the thing from grabbing you with that.
Yeah, I would need something to keep it busy while I go inside because it's a bonus action, so I would need 6 seconds to pop
Right.
in, grab the key, and then pop back out.
Is there something we could cast inside the wall of force that it would go after, like those dancing lights, or some kind of
Like illusion spell.
Yeah. I mean, I could if I could lower my concentration, but
Yeah, Far Step is also concentration, so I'd be busy with that spell. But telekinesis might work because you already have that up.
Yeah. I mean, the other option I could use try to use black tentacles, or I don't know if polymorph's going to work on a swarm. Probably not.
I mean, telekinesis should work. I mean, the good thing is Far Step says you teleport. It doesn't take anything with you, so even if it grapples me, I should teleport out without it.
Okay.
I would just take damage.
Okay.
So the problem with telekinesis, I think, is that you already have it up.
Yeah.
And so you can't force anything through the wall.
Yeah, it says I can exert the force on one creature or object you can see within range, causing the appropriate effect below. Whether it's move a huge or smaller creature or move an object that weighs less than 1,000 pounds.
Yeah, but you already moved Emmeryn, and it says if you do that movement on subsequent rounds, you can use your action to attempt to maintain your grip on that creature. In other words, if you, it doesn't just. I'm only saying for the purposes of trying to move something past that wall or trying to suddenly manifest your telekinesis spell inside the wall of force won't work.
Because it says I can affect the same target round after round, or I can choose a new one at any time. But if you're saying that because the wall of force is now up, I can't affect things inside it, then that makes sense.
Yeah, I guess I'm thinking if you want to try to affect something inside it, you need to cast the spell again.
Well, it says you can exert your will on one creature or object that you can see within range. It doesn't specify where it doesn't have an origin. Like, the origin is self, I think.
It says range area 60
I guess
feet.
it does say you can switch targets at will, right?
Yeah, it does say you can switch targets at will, and that the target you choose is something you can see. I guess it's DM discretion if telekinesis works on something that's behind a wall of force or not.
I don't see.
Given those.
I was thinking of it as basically once you've chosen your target, you've kind of chosen your target, but it says you can switch. So
yeah,
it's actually not a concentration spell, so I could cast an illusion inside of it.
Okay, though telekinesis might work a bit better to actually keep it occupied. It seemed really intent on protecting the key, so I don't think it's going to go for an illusion if it sees me going for the key. Is my thinking, at least. But if
unless the illusion is like Emmeryn grabbing the key.
So
I mean, I'll cast Far Step on myself.
Okay.
And I will, so that'll allow me to teleport, and I'll teleport inside the wall of force on the opposite end, so close to the key, like right beside the table.
Yeah.
And
when
then
go ahead.
grab the key.
Okay. And when Marcel's doing that, yeah, I'll try to use telekinesis to grab the bone pile.
Okay.
Right before Marcel does this, I'm gonna cast Enhance Ability.
On who?
Cat's Grace? Dex checks?
For
Dexterity?
I think it was strength, wasn't it?
Strength?
Yeah.
I mean, to grab it, because
I
you
mean,
might
I'm
need
gonna have a turn in there anyways.
Yeah. Well, I'll give you a bardic inspiration die too.
Okay.
It's the least.
I mean, should I go strength?
I think you should go strength.
Okay, I'll give you strength then. So advantage on strength checks.
Okay.
Yep.
I'll cast Mage Armor on you if you don't have it up already.
Yeah, I definitely don't. We're going to a library. Why would I cast Mage Armor on myself?
Okay. So let me get this straight. So Marcel, Konos has just cast Mage Armor on Marcel.
Mhm.
Emmeryn cast. What did you cast on?
Enhance
Oh,
ability.
Enhance Ability. And Axley.
I'm just performing bardic inspiration. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And Marcel, you're then, after all that's cast on you, and you wait 6
I'm
seconds.
casting. Well,
gonna...
I guess on the same turn after they all go, I just cast Far Step.
I'm saying not on the same turn because Konos needs to cast.
Oh, right. To choose his
telekinesis, right?
Telekinesis. Yeah. Yeah. So then on the next turn, I cast Far Step and teleport into the.
Because she can do that like for 10 rounds.
And then you're gonna cast. You're gonna cast that. Hop in there.
Grab the key.
That's an action for you. So
it's
then
a bonus
next
action.
Turn, it's a
bonus
action.
So
then you can use your movement to grab the thing, and
mm-hmm.
then on your next turn,
and then I have to
bonus
wait
actioning out. Okay.
Yeah.
And Konos, you're telekinesising the bones.
Yeah.
To try to make them move away from Marcel.
Yeah, to like just grab them and keep them from attacking Marcel.
Okay, I need a contested strength check then. Or I guess it tells me to roll a strength check. 23.
17.
Yeah.
This thing is strong.
It is very strong. But it's
it's free to move towards me.
It's what?
It's free to move towards me.
It's going to just try to reach out across the table and smack you.
Mm-hmm.
$20 hits your AC, right?
Absolutely.
15 damage.
Okay.
And you're gonna far step out of there, so I'm not even gonna bother to have you roll a check because even if you're grappled, you're gonna far step out, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
And Far Step doesn't take any creatures with me, so bye.
Okay, so you're out of there.
I'm like, out, bye. Teleport back out. Got the key. Let's go.
It scratched up your arms, just like it scratched up Emmeryn's.
Okay, we have it. Probably still wants the thing. We might want to leave.
Shut the door and get out of here. Yeah.
Leave
Let's
this
put some distance.
Let's leave this room and never come back.
Close the door and get as far away as possible.
Okay, so where are you going then?
Well, where's this key supposed to open?
Spire room, right?
Are we going there now?
Well, the thing is, okay, we need the key. Maybe. Probably. Hopefully. But we don't want to put the book back. We're using it. So why would we go to the spire room?
Yeah.
Let's just leave the library.
Rayla says we should put the book back.
No.
Look, no one will touch it anyway. And she kind of points at Konos, who has mage-handed it up again.
Yeah. And there's a reason we're not touching it.
Yes, exactly. So let's put it back and let's get out of here. This is the perfect opportunity. We may never find an opportunity to put this thing back again.
Why is it so important that the book gets put back?
We don't need it, and it's what caused everything, and we might accidentally destroy it with the white axiom.
But someone else might do the same thing if it's left here.
Who else is going to come in here? Have you
Well,
seen anyone else?
a bunch of bones. And a rat person.
A what?
That's what he was, right? A rat folk.
Yeah.
Yeah, a rat folk.
Well,
He's in the
anyway,
auditorium now.
but that doesn't matter. If we put the Book of Proofs back, maybe it'll just reset everything, and we won't need to do anything else, and we can go off and not have to worry about that book. It's how he found me.
If we have to stop him, it's not going to stop the sinking. The sinking already happened. It's not going to stop his undead armies. The undead armies are already
Yeah.
But he
alive.
can
I think-
find us if we have the book.
So he can find us if he attacks Calport. We're already in Calport. Who cares if he can find us?
I think the book is what was used to determine how to cause the sinking in the first place.
Yeah, probably. But it's already happened. So
Yeah.
putting it back is not going to do anything except take away one of the possibilities we have of figuring shit out.
So I'm assuming you're all walking while you're doing
Yeah.
this. Where
Yeah,
what direction are you going?
We're
Towards the
trying
exit.
we're trying to retrace our steps to go back towards the map room. Because that was towards the exit.
Yeah.
And we just got here. We were just taken here, so I don't think we'd get lost that easily.
Well, remember, he took you downstairs where there were lots of passageways.
Yeah.
So, whoever's in the lead leading the rest of you out, roll me an intelligence check.
I vote not me. Maybe Axley. I think Axley's. Wait, who's the
my
most intelligent
intelligence-
in the party? Is it really?
I've got a 16.
Okay, we have some intelligent people in the party. That's good news.
I'll give it a shot.
We're all like charisma and wisdom
10.
factors.
Oh,
Great, we're lost.
yep. It's fine.
You come to a passageway where you can either keep going forward and there are stairs up, or you can go to the right and the hallway keeps going. The right would be north. The stairs up would be going to the west.
Can we just call what's his name's name and ask him how to get out?
I presume at this point we've walked like for a couple minutes away from the.
Yeah, you're only a few
Ossuary.
minutes away.
Do we just want to call Tavros?
Should probably hide the key and then call Tavros. But yes.
Yeah, I'll stash that in my.
What does the key look like? Is it just like a piece of amethyst, or is it like in the shape of a key?
It is it's not in the shape of a key like a skeleton key, but it is cut in a peculiar shape.
What's the size?
2 or 3 inches, and it tapers. It has some etchings on it.
Is it something I could fit like inside my water skin? Like through the top of the water skin?
probably not unless you have like a water skin that has a wide mouth. It's pretty,
Yeah, I don't think
it's
so.
pretty big.
I'm not afraid to tell a small creature. All right, so I'll shove it in my pocket. No, backpack.
Okay.
I'll just like deep into the like
Okay.
whatever thing I have in there, so that it's not easily to like sleight of hand it out of my pocket or something. You'd have to search for it. I'm gonna have to search for it.
You have to know where it is now.
Okay. You don't trust Blacksley or Rayla?
No, not particularly. I was also thinking of just, the various skeletons and other invisible creatures that might live in this place.
Mm-hmm.
And how we're not supposed to remove things from this library.
Yeah. Right, now that it's hidden, we can call Tavros.
Okay, so you call Tavros. Okay, he flumes in on a billowing piece of smoke and forms himself into the image that you're used to seeing him in. Yes, did you find everything you need in the ossuary?
Yep, sure did. Some things we didn't need either. Also,
Yes.
you have a bit of a problem with like living bones in here, don't you?
I think the word problem is up for interpretation. Bones
Yeah.
are quite fascinating.
Yeah, you would say that. All right. Well, I think we should be leaving, but we kind of got lost. Do you mind showing us the exit?
The exit from the entire library.
Yeah.
He snaps his fingers, and you all are in the lobby.
Hey, wait.
That's handy.
Do that for like going anywhere
No,
besides?
only to the exit.
Oh. Can everyone do that? Like snap their fingers and say to the exit and get teleported? Or do you have to be there to do that?
No, that is something that I am able to do as the curator of the Library of Thoronimus.
I see. Well, you've been very helpful. Thank you. We'll be back for that other book that is like 6
nods,
hours
and then
walk.
he
Bye. I'm getting used to the whole, he's not going to listen to everything I say. So.
As soon as he says you're done, you say he's done, he's gone. So.
All right, well, no more bones.
I mean, he's not really Bones anymore. Should we check on our other friend, who is possibly now a cleric?
Oh, that guy. Forgot about him. He'll be fine. I mean, what are we going to check up on him? See if he's actually put something on after he got all his bits back?
I mean, he is my cloak.
It's true. But is he wearing it open? Or okay, let's just leave and see how it's going outside.
All right, that's fair.
Okay, so you all walk out of the library.
Has the Book of Proofs finished doing its thing?
Yes.
Cool.
We might want to deal with that before leaving the library.
Close that and put it away.
Yeah.
Wait, did we get an answer? Doesn't the answer disappear if you close it?
Oh.
Yeah,
I don't
let's
think the
not
answer.
do that.
Oh, it's done. Wait,
Yeah.
the answer. Oh, shit.
So the sentence that you wrote into the book was, "There is a way to remove the affliction plaguing Lucanius, leaving him alive and healthy at the end."
Mhm.
The answer is yes. And the proof is about 6 pages long.
It took that long for it to go 6 pages?
Wow.
I was thinking real hard.
So we have the answer. However, if we want to try and like figure out how, we'd have to keep it open.
Take a look.
That would. How long do you think it would take?
It takes about an hour per page to transcribe it onto parchment.
So 6 hours. Do we really want to stay in here 6 hours watching someone transcribe it?
I mean, I can just stay and transcribe it. You guys can go out and figure things out. Maybe make sure we're not passing too much time. And then pay the crew. Take care of other things, and then I'll meet you back at the ship. I don't think so.
You are
right?
the captain. Well,
I mean,
Sportsmaster can do that too. Do we even have money to pay the crew with?
We have some jewelry and stuff we
I
can
was gonna
sell.
say we discussed what we were going to sell in order to get money like forever ago. Sell 3 sacks of gunpowder, older, not useful books, jewels we stole from Sharkface. Jewels we technically stole from Sharkface is actually what I wrote.
Okay. So we can pawn the jewels and maybe the... Do we even have something to use the gunpowder on?
No.
I think so. That's why we're trying to get rid of it like a year ago.
If it absolutely comes to it, I do have one of the magic items that we got from Sharkface that I could part with.
Okay.
The belt of Hill Giant Strength.
All right, so we could do that. Okay.
Are you leaving one of you in the library?
Yeah. Why don't you keep Axley? Both of you working together will shorten it to 3 hours, right? You did that for the first proof.
Yeah. I mean, if you don't mind, actually.
Sure.
That way you're not alone.
Are you going to stay in the lobby, or are you going to go back to like the map room or something?
No, we'll just stay in the lobby.
Okay.
And you can probably find a table in one of the first annex rooms. Like
Gee, I wish I had a table.
A what?
Oh. A what?
A table.
Oh.
A table pops up.
Need some chairs too. Some comfortable writing chairs.
If you ask for those, they will show up.
There you go. All right. Okay. So Axley and Emmeryn will stay transcribing pages.
Transcribing the proof for the most recent. This is a true statement. Okay.
Yeah.
I said it says yes. It doesn't actually say yes. It says this is a true statement. You know, that's how it always words it, right? So let me make this clear. You're leaving Axley and Emmeryn behind and leaving a building that you think has a time abnormality.
Well, we're about to find that out. I guess if we find out that there's like that much of a time like depending on the time, and we'll pop back in. But if it's the way I think it is, then like 5 minutes after we leave, Axley and Nina are gonna Axley and Emmeryn are gonna pop out and be like, "Well, we finished. It's been 3 hours," and we're like, "But we just all right." Well, that works.
Do you have a rendezvous plan, or are you just gonna wait outside of the library?
I think we're meeting at the ship.
Yeah, we can meet at the ship.
Okay.
if we find out that like a lot of time has passed outside,
Yeah,
we'll pop back in immediately to
if we
let you
don't
guys
pop
know.
back out first. But
Well,
Yeah,
I mean, I'll ask Rayleigh. So, what time of day was it when you came in? Because we can test this.
Um, it was nighttime. I didn't want anybody to see me coming into the library.
How long had we been gone?
A few minutes.
Was it getting dark when we entered the library?
No, didn't you go in the morning or something? Wait, so you were in
Yeah.
you were in the throne room and you talked to the queens, and then they had their majordomo show you your quarters in the royal palace,
Yeah,
and then you slept there so you could get a long rest, and then you went the next morning, right?
correct.
Am I remembering that correctly? Yeah. So
Yeah, that sounds right.
It was morning when you entered.
So it can't have been a few minutes after we entered that she entered. That doesn't. If she entered at night, it would have been a day at least, or like half a day.
If
Honestly, we've been in here long enough to feel that it feels
For
like at
several
least.
hours, yeah.
Right. So think about something though. You stayed the night in the palace. She was not in the palace with you.
Oh, so she entered the library before us,
It's possible.
the night before we did. Uh, hmm. Let's just.
yeah, there's kind of no point in pondering it.
Yeah.
I mean, we can all leave, and I can transcribe this or in the curiosity or whatever if we really feel that strongly about getting out of just the library.
Okay, how are we transporting the book through most of the city without closing it? Because I don't think we want to parade a book with Mage Hand open through the whole book place. Do we just want to
It's
like?
against the law.
I mean, yeah, I can just carry it.
I mean,
Yeah, but
you could, but it's against the law, so you would likely be questioned. Remember, no casting in public.
yeah, no. But carrying it is not
Just like
casting.
physically?
Yeah, just
Oh, I
grabbing
thought
the
you
book.
meant with mage hand still.
No,
No,
I can just carry it.
we'd have to put a cloak, like wrap a cloak over the open book, so that. Because my concern is I don't want people seeing us toting around a book, especially leaving the library, because even though technically we brought it into the library, cat, don't strangle yourself, please. It still might look bad us leaving the library with a book, and also I don't want anyone to recognize the book of proofs. So maybe at the very least wrap it in a like thing, in a cloak and like carry it. Maybe you can carry it like a baby. This is just my baby. It's not a book I'm carrying inside a cloth. It's just the baby.
Do you think, Axley?
I mean, you can't just put a bookmark in it, right? It's not that it has to be wide open.
No one's ever tried.
Yeah, we
No.
haven't really experimented with it, and I don't really.
Yeah. Do we want to try putting a bookmark in? I think the least, the most we've done is like stuffed it, like it with cloth or something, and then kind of sort of closed it when we covered it in the.
Because the book cover is now like nasty skin.
Skin.
Yeah.
The edges of the pages writhe.
Yeah.
Yeah, we don't want people to see this.
Yeah, but I mean that's why you've been covering it and whatnot. It's
Yeah. I mean, yeah, it's we don't exactly want to touch it all the time either, because yeah, it's kind of disgusting. Touch it as little as possible. Yeah, my suggestion is covering it, like wrapping it in cloth and carrying it back to the ship if we don't want to split people inside this possible tiny thing of a library.
That works with me.
Okay.
Put some fruit on top of it, like it's some groceries.
Yeah, does anybody have like just a basket or something?
Gee, I wish I had some fruit.
You have to ring the bell for the caterer, remember?
Oh, yeah. Are we hungry at all? After all this time?
Are you asking me? I don't know. Are you hungry?
Well, I mean, it depends on how long it's been for us.
But your perception is that it's been regular time.
Right. And we think it's been like
A
at
few
least
hours.
Yeah, 2-3 hours.
I
We're
mean,
probably getting hungry.
More than that, because actually, I mean, you spent like 3 hours down in the maze. You spent an hour or so going to the reaches. You spent a couple of hours in Stacks J. You spent
So more like 6-7 hours.
And then you had Tavros take you to the ossuary. So it's been all day, in your brain. That's what you're.
Okay.
But you've been busy the whole time. It's not like you've been bored.
Yeah.
So you got hungry.
So now that we suddenly thought of food, it's all like stomach groans all over the place.
It's all starting. Yep.
Probably, yeah.
It's like, oh yeah, food. I've definitely gone 6 hours without eating, without realizing, and then it's like, oh yeah, it's been 8 hours. Oops.
Right.
I should eat. Yeah, so we can either eat here for free or we can go out and get some food at our ship. But I think the consensus is we've spent enough time in here and we want to see exactly how much time has passed outside.
And we're all leaving together.
Yeah, so we'll wrap the book in a cloak. And carry it with us. Like wrap it open and
Okay.
that way no one can see it and we leave the library.
Emmeryn does not have a cloak anymore.
No.
Whose cloak are you using to wrap the book?
I can use the robe of eyes that I've got, but I'll put it so the eyes aren't looking at it when we wrap it up.
Is that like adding a bag of holding to a portable hole?
I hope not.
You're putting a robe of eyes over something that contains ethereal space.
Do we not have any other?
I probably have a normal cloak, I would think.
I think a bard would have a cloak. Yeah. I kind of established Marcel not having a cloak unless it's necessary. So I don't think he's wearing. It wasn't raining or anything when we left the ship, so Marcel would not have been wearing a cloak. They're not the kind of person who wears a cloak all the time. And they don't mind water, so.
I mean, you can use the robe of eyes. I was just giving you a hard time.
Okay.
Yeah.
But if Axley has a normal cloak, that might be better.
Yeah, maybe.
All right, we wrap it in Axley's cloak.
Okay.
And
you're
leave.
Going to walk outside.
Yep, to find everything on fire and acid because dragons attack you.
You walk out of the lobby, and the way you walk out of the lobby, remember the doors kind of slide back and open, and then you walk into the entryway where the desk is, where Emmeryn had to sign in and all that stuff. And as those doors open and you start to walk, there's an enormous earthquake.
Mm.
And you hear the sound of rumbling, and the whole building shakes. And as you, of course, Rayla now is freaked out, and she wants to get out of this building. But as the doors open, because it's like it knows you're leaving, so the doors to the outside open, and as you walk out, the ground is still shaking a little bit, and you see that some buildings have had damage. They've got cracks starting to grow up their sides and whatnot. And then you hear a sound that is familiar and not so pleasant, and you feel the wind of a great flapping. And as you look up, you see an enormous dragon flying.
No!
Called it.
No!
And the dragon has green and red scales. And you see the town guard and the Queen's elite guard trying to get people into buildings being out in the open. And the dragon flies by, and it breathes a swath of red fire on a little park area that had some trees in it. And following that swath of red fire, a plume of green, poisonous air wafts onto the area, coating the fiery area with a nasty layer of poison.
Oh no.
Your choice is try to make it from the library over to the palace, or down to the boat, or back into the library. But in terms of time passing, it's not an obvious, like you don't walk out and think, oh my god, it's been 100 years, or oh my god, whatever.
Yeah.
Like,
what time of day is it?
It is like afternoon, evening. It's like 5-6
Okay.
p.m.
So if we had been in there for a day, it would more or less coincide with how long we felt it was inside.
Mm-hmm.
Except this might be 10 years later, for all we know. Okay. Great. I have one question that I was thinking of as we were leaving. Because the doors open before we get to them, and we like walk and we can see outside, right?
Well, sort of. Remember, the whole thing is this big stone building with like no windows.
Right, but we can see outside the doors as we're heading towards the...
As they open, yes, you can see. Yes.
I wanted to, like, as we were leaving, see if I could see any movement of, like, people walking outside or a seagull or anything that would indicate, like, I was watching it happen faster while we were inside or slower. Like, if there was, like, a noticeable difference in movement while we were still inside but could see outside.
You don't notice anything.
Okay. So either it doesn't happen in this area because this is just the lobby entrance thing. Okay. Or the timey-wimey stops when the doors open because time crashing. So we have a dragon. How far is the dragon, like, how far is the, like, area it just breathed on from the library entrance?
A few blocks.
Yeah. Okay.
But it's on fire, because you could see
The earthquake
being a little park there, so.
Excuse me.
Is the earthquake like citywide, or does it seem like it was just localized to where the dragon is?
It seems like it was citywide. I mean, you have a very limited perspective at this point because you're next to one of the largest buildings in the city, so it's hard to see anything in that direction unless you were to walk far way around. But when you look in front of you, it looks like, you know, the earthquake affected everything, and the dragons flying around, burning up stuff.
Do we just see a dragon? Like, there's no wyverns or anything, no storm?
You can roll a perception check.
Because I remember, that's a 23.
Yeah, you see 2 white wyverns, just from your point of view, coming to
Chasing
engage.
the dragon.
They're trying to harry it so that it leaves. You know how when there's a larger bird, smaller birds sometimes mob?
Yeah.
That's exactly what it looks like. So those big wyverns are that small compared to this thing.
Great. I'm a speck of dirt. Where are we heading, Captain?
So let's stop there and not make a decision on where to head just yet.
Are we calling it a break, or are we calling it end of session?
Let's call it the end of the session. I know we're a little bit early, but we can talk about a few things here for a couple of minutes to round this up. So, what do you all, and you can chat about this, but what do you all foresee as sort of the next steps that you're going to take? I know there's a big dragon in front of you right at this point. But,
Yeah, that's a little obstacle. Small obstacle.
But other than that, I mean, right, you already knew that dragon existed, so
yeah.
Eventually you might have to engage it, but maybe not. Who knows, right? So,
Gee, I wish I hadn't cast a 5th level spell just to grab a key. It's fine. I still have another one. I feel like we need to deal with the dragon, so I think we're not gonna just sneak away
right now.
not
Well,
in real life.
But... Cleric took damage from.
Yeah, I took damage.
Yeah, and already has several spell slots out.
Yeah, better to face it on like when it's not aware, right? Like on our own terms.
Well, the thing, my point of view is we wanted to get the help of Calport and its various resources, and they had basically told us if we wanted their help and like if we wanted to curry favor with them, we had to help them with the dragon. Now we were supposed to help them with the dragon before it attacked the town, but we got distracted with the library. And
it's
also
been one day.
We weren't exactly expecting it to attack the very next day.
Yeah.
They didn't say anything about that.
No. Marcel had the meta feeling that it was going to happen whenever we left the library, no matter how much time we spent in the library. But we could have come out and everything's on fire, which is worse.
And not to sound callous, but they will appreciate our help a little bit more after this.
Yeah, well, that's my point. If we don't help them, then why should they help us? Assuming they survive fire and death.
What kind of help do we want from them?
Armies? I mean, we did see an undead army. I don't think the 4 of us can take on Laralac on their own. I was kind of hoping for some allies, more than just the
I was gonna say, the more people we can get on our side, the better. The only problem is, like, do we legitimately think we can fight this thing and win?
Well, that's the other thing. We're not fighting it alone. I'm assuming this place has defenses and ways to, ballista or whatever.
Chase a dragon off, yeah.
I mean, do you think we could lure it out to our ship and use our ship to blast it? No?
We'd sink the ship.
I guess
we want to do that.
That's a great way to set our ship on fire.
I mean, that potentially deals with the issue of not having to pay the crew, but no, that's not how I want to solve that solution.
Okay.
That
yeah,
problem.
never mind.
I'm kind of with Marcel in the notion, that we don't necessarily have to fight and kill it, but if we can just help drive it away at this point, that's
either drive it away or drive it down, because right now, like, an army does jack shit to a
big flying dragon.
Big flying dragon.
Yeah.
But if we can ground it, then I'm sure they can help out more. They'll lose people, but
And it'll be slightly more effective when it's on the ground. Yes.
yeah, and they've got to have like ballista or anything. This is Calport. They have to have like defenses. They've probably been attacked in the past, maybe not by dragons, but so we have to figure out where the ballistas are and drag the dragon that way.
We don't know where anything is.
Yeah, we might have to be going to the
Castle.
That's probably our best bet in terms of figuring out how best to help. But after that, after we've dealt with the dragon, what are we doing? And getting a night of sleep.
Yeah, like all of the kind of errands we were talking about before, I guess.
Yeah, honestly, Honestly, we need cash.
Mm-hmm.
We need money because I would like to get some spell components for some better spells.
I hear dragon scales fetch a good price.
Yeah. And they already said they would pay us if we killed it. So at some point in time, we're going to kill this dragon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If not now, later. But you do need money at some point in time. So just general errands would be great.
I feel like our next big step after dealing with the dragon and having Calport as an ally is taking the curiosity and figuring out either the soul spire or like going to where we think the coral goes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like get to the blue plateau in general.
I forgot. I found an interesting note that one of the blue goblins was talking about when we fought them in the Palace of Mud. We were interrogating the live one, and we asked about Laralak's army, and he's talking about like the gate leading to Laralak, and then said something. I have a small note off to the side that says, "Open the well of Shamasa and release the Blue Plateau." So we've heard this before. The well of Shamasa, the well of Hasit, and the well of Capitalis are maybe interchangeable, if not closely related. But I think, yeah, what Karu said, figuring out where this coral goes and how to fix the well, because the first step is to patch the hole.
Yeah. So I think that's like the next big thing after we deal with the fact that there's a dragon attacking the city that we want to befriend.
Doesn't mean he'll live.
I mean, if I could get really close to it, and by that I mean close enough for it to murder me 10 times over, I could, and if I'm really really lucky, I could do something that would buy us an hour of time. Polymorph it.
That would at least get it out of the city.
Yeah.
And maybe tie it down.
Well, that's if it fails a save, right? It's gonna
if we're really, really lucky.
After return, it's like 15 legendary resistances, then maybe you can polymorph it. I'm sure we have like that many spells that we can spend on and actually making it fail.
I also get divine intervention now.
Hey, this sounds like a good time for that.
How close do you have to be to it, Konos, to do that?
60 feet. Like I said, close enough for it to kill me, like in 5 different ways, probably.
And what does divine intervention do for you, Emmeryn?
Oh, that is like... It is... Oh God, where'd it go? As an action, request your deity's aid and roll a percentile dice. If successful, your deity intervenes. So...
What's the percentile dice number to...
it's lower than your level.
Yeah.
So I would have to roll
like a 1 in 10
or lower.
Yeah.
10 or lower. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a 10% chance right now.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, but it's basically like the cleric's version of Wish. For the
Yeah.
most part.
Yeah.
Good news is at 20th level, it always works.
Does it really?
Yeah. Bad news is we're not there yet.
Do you want to try that?
But what do
Oh
you
God,
ask
right
of it? What would you ask as the divine intervention?
Protect this.
Help protect the city? That would be a good one. Send us aid to protect the city from the dragon.
Yeah. I think that's good. I was just gonna say kill the dragon, but
I don't think it's powerful enough for that kind of
probably
thing.
not.
But send a planar ally, like send a
Send some kind of aid.
Yeah, get a solar in
City.
here or something.
Yeah.
be it an angel, an army of angels, whatever the god
Yeah.
decides is appropriate.
Mm-hmm.
Send me an angel.
And if it fails, it's a once per long rest type thing, so I can try again tomorrow.
Yeah.
Supposing
Yeah, the
you
hard
know
part is actually rolling under your level.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's very much like it's like a once per campaign thing if you're lucky, but when
Yeah.
it works, it's like you just literally won D&D pretty much.
Yeah.
So, do you want to roll it now? Is that what we're doing?
Yes.
As I assume the DM reads the spell.
Yeah, do you want to roll it?
Oh God.
No pressure.
Oh God. Which dice do I roll?
You roll
It's
It would be percentage.
2 10-sided and
No,
roll,
I know. I have colors. It's what I'm
Oh, okay.
trying to decide.
roll your favorite lucky ones.
Which ones have been fermenting in holy water for the last 5 years?
Right?
Use those.
Okay. I'll roll my purple ones and my rainbow ones.
You know which one's the 10s?
I do.
Okay.
No, 17.
17.
Oh,
Low,
Oh, close.
but it wasn't low enough.
yeah.
How low does it need to be? What does it need to be?
Under
It
your
needs to be
level.
below 10.
As
Oh.
Emmeryn prays, Rayla also prays. And as the two of them are praying, an enormous tsunami comes, sweeps across the city, and hits the dragon, pulling it into the sea. And as the dragon is pulled, literally swiped out of the air by this enormous wave, the dragon is trying to, blast fire and flap its wings, and it's almost like a giant wave-like hand just came and grabbed it and snatched it out of the air. And the water recedes, and some of the buildings have been damaged, and everything at the docks is all in upheaval because of the enormous power of the wave. But the dragon's gone.
That's good to have a god on your side.
You love it. Yeah.
I just look back at Emmeryn and go, could you always do that?
And as that recedes, Rayla falls down to the ground.
Ah.
What?
She passes out, goes unconscious. She's out cold.
Okay. Cure wounds real quick.
How much? How many points?
Oh God. Hold on. Wait. Okay. Uh, uh, breathing?
Very shallowly.
Hopefully. I don't have anything.
Just minor healing spells.
Just minor healing. Alright, well, I guess, we should probably get somewhere safer with people who can help.
We could go to the castle.
Yeah.
We have rooms there, and she'll be the safest there. And that way we can rub it into their faces that we're the ones that got rid of the dragon.
If we're going back to the castle, I'm going to have Otto fly back to the docks and make sure our ship wasn't just destroyed in all of that, because you said the dock got
That was
hit pretty
my other
hard.
concern. That was my other worry.
And then, come fly back and tell us what's going on.
Because we have like an army of ships out. But those are they weren't all necessary. They're in the harbor, yeah.
So, Konos, you see through Otto's eyes, right?
Yeah. And there's no range on that now.
Yeah, you see that the docks are in disarray, but the ships are fine, and it doesn't look like there's no dead bodies floating around or anything like that. But in any kind of cargo that was in a crate that floats, they're all like they've been thrown about, and there's just some of the docks have the woods become detached and weakened, and the boats are all still floating, but there's lots of debris and cargo that's sort of out and about that people are trying to scramble to take care of. But it's not a scene of devastation like boats are broken in half and all that. It's really not.
So it feels like the tide had suddenly come up and then down, washing things off, but not necessarily destructively.
Right.
Yeah, like anything that wasn't tied down just got pushed away for a while. Okay, so I'll come out. I'm like, okay, well, good news is the boats are okay. Some damage to the docks. They're going to be cleaning up for a while, but nothing too horrible from the looks of it.
Great. I'm assuming Konos and Emmeryn are carrying Vrayla because the rest of us are tiny.
Okay.
And we head to the palace.
So you already have gained entry. I mean, like they know that you are.
Guests.
Your guests. And let me find my notes here. You are met at the door by the Major Domo Justinius, who was assigned to show you to your rooms and everything. And they are celebrating in the palace, and you can take Rayla and get her settled in. And as you are making your way to the rooms and whatnot, you note that the celebration is in honor of the abbot of Straben, Tullus, who has claimed to have called forth the power of Straben to relieve Calport of the scourge of the dual dragon.
Going to kill him.
Oh, we got a holy war
That's
ready to break out.
Oh, I'm bringing my game face next session. We're gonna deck it out.
I knew we couldn't play a whole dragon fight. That's why I wanted to end the session early. But then when you start talking about doing other things to stop it rather than directly try to gather an army and fight it, it was easy to adjudicate that. So, so Tullus is claiming.
Of course he is.
They're already planning. You know, Justinius tells you that they're planning a ball in his honor, and it would of course be wonderful if all of you could come to the festivities and you know, and do what is necessary.
We're coming to the festivities, all right.
Oh my god, I'm so angry.
Yeah.
So angry. Oh my god. Oh no.
Yeah, so.
Oh no, there's gonna be some words.
Blacksley is absolutely thrilled to be invited to the ball.
Of course he is. It's too bad you have to stay here and protect Rayla. It's unfortunate you can't go to the ball because we need someone to look after Emmeryn's mom.
He says, but I need to go to the ball. This is fantastic. I can ply my skills, ply my trade while I am.
What exactly is your trade?
Why, you don't remember?
Bullshit artist.
I am the head of the Inquisitors Guild, remember?
Yeah, that's why you're not leaving the room.
Lack of trust is going to get you killed, I swear.
Especially not after what we figured out about your past.
What do you mean?
If only you knew. It's too bad.
Why don't you tell me?
Oh, look at that. The credits are rolling.
Very true. Okay, so well, everyone, thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. If you're listening to this in podcast form, we appreciate it. If you have any questions or comments, or you want to just cuss me out, you can email DnDeBrief@gmail.com, DnDeBrief@gmail.com. And this will be posted on YouTube eventually, but also it will be released in podcast form. That release will be no longer taking place on the Don't Split the Podcast Network. Instead, it is going to move over to the Tome Show, so you will be able to see recent DnDeBrief episodes on thetomeshow.com. And so everyone say goodbye.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.
And I will take us out of here. We are now in the thanks.